Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Angela Everett?
Yes.
Here. Mrs. Gadsden?
Here.
Mrs. Galbo? Here. Mr. Garnett?
Here.
Mr. Munoz?
Here.
Ms. Patchen?
Delete.
Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Dodge?
Here.
Mrs. Thompson?
Here. Dr. Walker, would you review the fire exits, please?
Yes, the fire exits are directly behind the audience. In case of emergency, go out those doors.
Would you like to introduce our workshop tonight?
I would. This evening, I'm very pleased to have Dr. Sieverdeen here, who's going to give us a brief update on some of the work that's being done, plans that are in place to affect the dropout rate. And also, he has some exciting news about the graduation rate. So, Dr. Sieverdeen.
Thank you. I think tonight I'll work from that side. I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to start easing into the suit and tie, white shirt, and thing. So we'll do it this way tonight, and then next time it'll be full white shirt, suit and tie, like you know me. And maybe I'll shave the beard also. Okay. You know, we've been doing a lot of work on this particular topic. Like when we do this here? We're good, right? All right, so developing dropout prevention strategies. We've had a number of meetings already. If you recall, the first one was a report to the entire community. That happened, I think, sometime in March. And then Dr. Walkley and I presented this this information to the task force that we are in the process of putting together for this. And I did mention a little bit to you, I think one of the board meetings, just very briefly, and I heard Dr. Walkley say brief, so I will be. So this is what we're doing, just some updated information of what happened last year so that you have a better understanding of it, what we have done so far, and then the dropout rate and graduation rate for last year's graduating class, the class of 2013-14, which is the 2010 cohort, and what our common purpose is, and connecting the schools with the community and organizational matters and so forth. Okay. Last year, with the class of 2014, all right, the overarching factor was one of attendance. Students drop out because they're not coming to school. But it shouldn't stop there. Why aren't they coming to school? So we did a very thorough analysis of that issue. And last year, we had a total of 21 students that dropped out. And although I say 21 compared to the 3 years before, I tell you, this is a drastic improvement, but it's still unacceptable. I mean, one student dropping out is one too many. But the 21 that did, and that happened over a period of time, not just 1 year. It happened a process, and I'll mention that, and I'll keep highlighting that. This is not a high school issue alone. It's an issue that the district has to work on, and that's what Dr. Walkley and I stressed when we talked to the task force about what we have to do as a district. It's been discussed at cabinet meetings that it has to be every single school that's going to work on this. So, but the 21, when they came to the high school, and these were the numbers, basically, and these are the reasons right here. And the first one, is obvious there, and the other one, this here, left district and transfer students. I think I mentioned that. It's an interesting concept. Students that come here, and I think we already talked about this. Students that come to Beacon High School as a senior or a junior, what they should have been, they happen to be 17, 18 years old, and they come to us from another district, maybe with 2 or 3 credits to their name, and they leave another district and they come to us. They are students at Beacon High School. And if this happens when they're that old, and it's late in the spring, and I think it's obvious, you know what's going to happen. All right, they're going to be 18, 19, 2 credits, and that's a real tough one. But you see, these are all the other issues, 21 for last year's class. So, as a school, let me just talk about this a bit, all right? We put in place a number of things, and I want to report on that because we're seeing some real positive gains. Even though this was last year's 9th grade, which had nothing to do with the cohort of 2010, it's going to give us results, I believe, firmly, that it's going to give us good results, because our failure rate for kids that came in as 9th graders at the end of 9th grade was far improved compared to previous years. We had fewer failures in the core subjects, and that's because they were assigned to 4 common teachers. They were scheduled for academic at-risk students were scheduled for a daily, what we call our seminar period, where they go back to those 4 teachers. Now, last year, I could only do it with 3 teachers. The science teachers, it was difficult to deal with because they have a class and then they have labs. So they could not participate in Seminar 9 last year. I was able to manipulate and sort of massage the schedule that now the science teachers are also involved. So you've got the 4 Common Core teachers meeting with those kids every day. They're going to be mentored in progress, which we did last year, more intense collaboration, and then we found that the failure rate last year was much improved. Here's the other important one: credit recovery during the regular school day. In the past, students used to wait until they were, juniors and seniors, and they have to catch up, and then it's too late. Last year, we started right away. As sophomores who failed, we had 2 scheduled classes where the kids did credit recovery using Novanet with the teacher who was certified in that classroom. We had 2 such periods. This year, we have one for every core subject. So that we should see results from that as well. Just very quickly, the kids, sometimes kids get extra help, academic support. And sometimes there's a tough buy-in, because a lot of times there's no credit involved. It's a pass-fail situation. And they'll say, why do I want to do that? So now they have bought into this Seminar 9 because they can see it. There's a direct correlation with them working with their team teachers, and their classroom grades were going up throughout the year. So we're going to hopefully see much more of that. They focus on skill building and making connections to the academic content. The organizational piece is an integral part of the support. We just finished with the boot camp for the 8th graders that are coming to the high school. We did that last week. As you can see, grades are improving in the core content areas. And this mentoring piece is extremely important, where now you've got the kids here, they see 4 core teachers, and there's a connection there because they have to see them every day, at least for 1 period, if they are at risk. So I think, if I remember correctly, right, we shared these numbers. This is last year, 2009 cohort. That was the enrollment. This was our 2013-14 graduating class. We had 259 students. The dropout rate from 2 years ago was 44. Last year it was 21, which means we went from a 15.9% rate down to an 8.1% rate. So, we're getting there. We're getting there. We're not finished yet because this is still too many kids. All right, so we have to continue looking at ways to address the problem. And that's why the task force is, and here, let me talk about this here. Now, here was the good news that Dr. Walkley was talking about. All right. As you know, when we're finished with the year, the data that's out there is always 1 year behind. All right. This was last year's graduating class, 2013-14. All right. Now, the 83% that you see there is, I calculated this number with Kim Stavali by using, how many kids we knew dropped out, how many kids were continuing for next year, and the ones who were still on the bubble. And the way this number came about was we knew what the rate was in June. We knew how many kids still had to complete work to be considered an August graduate. The August graduates are part of the 2013-14 cohort. And we had 11 kids that actually graduated. We had a ceremony last week. We had 11 kids that graduated. And what I said to them was, you guys, not only from a personal point of view, you graduated. I mean, you struggled a bit, but you graduated. But the other thing that you did, you pushed us up to this number. In other words, we were just kind of, if you round up, it would have been 80%. All right. So, but now with those extra kids, now this will be verified by the state. It'll be at 83%, and which is obviously we need the 80%. Now, instead I looked at all of the subgroups as well, and every one of them increased from what you see in 2012-13. Every single group increased. And the official results will come out later on when the state does their thing with sending all the data, R2D2, oh no, that was a TV show, L2, RPT, through the casino gambling commissions and so forth. They're having hearings. When those numbers will come out, Dr. Walkley, when? Later on, like October, November, I think, right?
We can only hope.
Okay, so those numbers will come out. But by hand, I calculated that every subgroup has gone up from the number that you see down below. And this is the very important one, is that you need 80% as far as the state is concerned.
And if I could just interrupt for a minute, I asked Dr. Sieverdeen, as he said, the official numbers will come from the state. This is not an official number, so I didn't want to put a lot of numbers up there. We're at the best of our ability, we believe, in all intents and purposes, that it will be 83%.
Right. Sometimes
the state throws in an extra calculation that we don't know about. So instead of putting a lot of numbers up there, because it is good news all around, we're just going to start with, we made the graduation rate for all students. That's the good news for all of us. And then we will continue to share good news as the state makes it available.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay, now the work of the task force, which we had one meeting, I think it was June 26th, and there are 3 steering committees that we're going to put into effect, and this will be the charge to each of the steering committees. We're going to have one on attendance, and we're going to have one on parent education, and another one on connecting students to school and community. And for anyone who's listening who would like to work on these steering committees, please call the high school, and I'll be glad to talk to you about participating in this initiative. There will be a school person who will be running each of these committees, and we hope to get started early in September. I think I'm the one that's going to be doing the attendance piece, and I have already a couple of thoughts about how we approve attendance, and that will require a discussion. I think I already discussed that with Dr. Walkley and other central office staff, but that's where it is at this point. And once we've completed those discussions, and then I'm sure there'll be a discussion with the board, because we have some ideas where we can make a dent in that, and because to me, this is an issue, the attendance, and it's an issue because kids are showing up late, and if you do a study on their period 1 grade and them coming in late to school, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they're not doing well in their period 1 class. We want them all here by 7:30, and so we have some thoughts about that, and this is where we're doing our work. And again, in other areas such as early childhood education, mentoring partnerships, service learning, after-school opportunities, school-to-work programs, Dr. Walkley and I attended the City of Beacon is developing a request for proposal for the women's prison that's next door to us, and we have some ideas about that as well. You know, a school-to-work program, a certified GED program, because as you know, kids who go to GED, and if it's not a certified state program, they're considered a dropout. So we're looking at that piece, and we're looking at a work thing. I mean, there are kids who perhaps a work and a school program, the two combined, will keep them in school, and we're looking at that as well. So we attended that, and they were very excited, but, you know, what drives the thing is in this request is going to require, you know, them coming up with a request or for proposal that gets approved by the state. But there's other people that are putting out RFPs as well, or responding to the RFP. All right, and you know, so these are the areas that we are working in, and I think that's it. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you if I can.
I had a question.
Yes.
You said that 80% was the state guideline for
Graduation rate.
So how is the school district penalized, or are they in any way if it falls below 80%?
That's what gets you. It gets you on the list, and that's the cutoff point, 80%. But then the next step is you could be over 80%, but maybe your subgroups are not. You know, if you have enough kids in other areas to carry that, and still get you over the 80%. And our charge is to get every, you know, subgroup above that 80%.
Any other questions?
I don't really have a question. I just want to speak.
This is near and dear to my heart, so this brings me great joy to see the progress. And as I was away with my daughter doing getting her enrolled in school, and I missed the graduation, but the numbers were worrying me all the way there, because I was like, if that number is just that number, then it'll bring us over the 80%. So it'll show the progress in your hard work. So I truly appreciate all the work that you put in.
Thank you, and but I'm glad you said that, because it's not me by myself. Because one of the things that we have been talking about at cabinet meetings, that this whole business, if you read the research, this is an issue that starts in kindergarten and first grade and second grade. So we've already discussed it with the elementary school principals, the middle school principal. Obviously, the high school is involved, but it has to be everyone. And one of the things that we're talking about is we start identifying those kids that don't come to school and coming up with some tracking system. And, you know, there was an interesting article that appeared in Across the River and Orange County's SMART program. And I'll make copies. I'll give it to Dr. Walkley for you to take a look at. And what it's about is that Orange County officials, through the district attorney's office, when a student fails to come to school and the parents fail to get their kids to school after a certain number of days, then they're going to get involved to deal with the issue of truancy. So I'll show you the article. And it's got to be everyone. It's got to be, you know, the community. It's got to be parents, other parents, school officials, etc., to get the kids to come to school.
Thank you, Dr. Sieverding, and I'd also like to thank your administrative team and your staff for all the good work that they're doing, the hard work that they're doing in working on these two particular issues. So thank you.
Thank you.
May I have a motion for executive session?
Motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of a particular individual, and the board will return as soon as possible.
Second.